Hey guys, welcome back. It's Dave. It's been about a month now since I had my last video on here. I have nothing new. Okay, what I wanted to do is I just wanted to bring things up to the forefront as far as what I've been using for my grids when I've been playing. And I've been basically using one of two grids. The grid that I'm going to show you today for Churchill opening day is the one it's the most recent one that I put into our download for pace progression. This is not in the thorough capping tutorial download. This is in the pace progression, and it's the one that just says with Briz pace. Okay, what we're going to take a look at. There is a new grid that I've been playing around with, and I'm liking the results of it for the most part, and it's a grid that ties in the Briz pace shape for first call and second call. So let me open up a PP real quick and show you what I mean by that. And that's these numbers right here, the -2 and the 0, -1, -3. That's not the current grid I'm using today for this video, but I did take a look at 7 of the 10 races for Churchill today. And let me go back to it. Starting in race number 2. Now what I'm going to do is I'm not going to do a complete breakdown of every single race because I do have a selections grid that I will post and keep up here in the end so that you guys can take a screenshot of it. That way you can maybe follow along. And if you see things are working out early, maybe put some wagers in or do whatever you want with it. As you can see from the selections grid here, I did toss out races 1, race 8, and race 10. Okay, so we do have 7 races to look at here. And let's take a look real quick at the first one. Now this is blinking, so let me make sure I'm recording here. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pretty much map out the grid real quick. That way, nobody here that's looking at it for the first time has to go back and find the last video that I used to map it out. We're going to map it out right here. This first section over here is the first call section. Okay, and what it's doing is taking the first call time and turning it into a rating. And then I'm also using the Briz pace rating for that particular call as well. And we're averaging them out, and that's where we're getting segment 1. So segment 1 should be titled average. Oh, give me a second. Segment 1 should be really is the same as average 1C and E1. Average first call and early pace 1. Alright, but I had it titled segment 1 because I originally had this one titled segment 2 and I never changed that one back. But what we're looking at is we're looking at a rating, an average rating between the fractional time for this particular horse at the first call plus his Briz pace averaged out. Second call over here is the same exact thing, except it's for the second call. The rating for the internal fraction, as well as the the Briz pace rating for the second call. And we have a average 2C E2 rating. In between that, however, I do have a turn rating. So the turn rating is the time from the the first call to the second call. And you might think, well, isn't that what this is? Or this here? No. This here is the a rating given from the start of the race to the second call. So let's take a look real quick, and we'll see where we're getting that from. This is the largest I can make the PP generator PP, so hopefully you can see this well. The first call in a sprint is coming off of this 22 and 2, which is a 98. Okay, and I have the options. I have it set so that the fractions are for this particular horse and not for the leader in the race. So I do not have to take into account lengths behind at these calls. I can just look right at this time and know that this particular horse, the one horse, got to the first call in 22.2 seconds. And he was on the lead, so this was his actual time. Okay, the second call is off of the 46.1. Okay, so when you look here, you're seeing this average is a reflection of that 46.1. Okay, not a reflection of, and this isn't the same race we're looking at here. This is race number 9. But we'll take a look at race 2 real quick, so you can see where I'm coming from. But race 2 is actually a route. So the first call of a route is actually the half. So that first call is off the 50-1. And as you can see, a 50-1 is a 21 off of 100, which is a 79. Okay, and those that have the pace progression tutorial and have been using this model, you know exactly what I mean when I say it's 21 off of 100, because we use 46 as the standard halftime for 100. So we had a 50-1. That'd be a 79. This second rating, the 72, is actually off of this 115-3. So in a route race, I use 110 as the standard 100. This is 25, something like this. 28 ticks off of a 110. So 28 from 100 is a 72. And that's where we get the 72 from here. And then his Briz pace for that E2 was a 57. And that's why we're averaging in 72 and 57 and getting the average of 64.50. But in between there, what I've done is I meshed the turn rating. Okay, what we're looking at here is actually the incremental time in between this first call and that second call. So that's where we still got to do our mental math and go a 50-1 to a 115-3 would be a 9-4, 24-7. What's a 25-2 would be an 83. And we look, or an 82, I'm sorry, 15-3. 82 would be his turn rating. Okay, so that's where we're coming up with there. And here we have the final fraction. Okay, the final fraction is done the same way. We have the final fraction and then the late pace number. The final fraction is the 6 furlong to the finish in this race. And then the late pace is the 91. So as you can see here, we had an 87 as a final fraction rating. And we had the 91 as the Briz pace rating, giving him an average of an 89. The TC1, thorough capping 1 rating, is an average of first call, second call, finish. All averaged together. And then what I also have here is I have a rating for the turn and the final fraction. So let's take a look at this for a second. I'm going to draw something up for you. Okay, this is the best we can do right now, but we have our oval here. I just drew a quick oval on paint. The start of the race, so let's say this is a mile race. This one we're looking at. So we have a start about right here. And then we have the finish there too. Okay, that last rating that I have, the turn plus the final fraction, takes into account both the quarter mile on the turn and then the quarter mile finish together. So the turn rating, again, this is tough to work with because we have a very tight turn here, but the turn rating is this right here. And that final rating that I'm talking about right here, turn rating and final fraction, is a combination of both of these together. So it just kind of takes a look at the how well the horse ran from when they hit the turn to the finish. Okay, in being that this is a mile race, we are not looking at the first call, or we're not looking at the first quarter, I should say. So the first call is actually, and again, I'm just eyeballing this up. The first call starts right here, which is pretty much whatever, at the half mile. And goes from here. So we're not worried about the first quarter of a route race. So we're not looking at the 25-4 at all in a route. Okay, I hope that my doodling there didn't screw anybody up. But let's take a look here, and then we have the final thorough capping rating, which is actually an average of thorough capping 1 averaged together with this turn rating final fraction average to give us a final overall average. Now, what I'm going to look at as we go through these races real quick is you can already see how I ranked these 3 ranks right here. I ranked them based on top, highest to lowest out of the top 4. That's why we have a 6, 1, 7, 8 here. 1, 8, and then 6 and 7, 6, 7. We're tied here. And same thing, 3, 6, 7, 1. But this here rating, those that didn't pick this up before when I mentioned in my other videos, this is my eyeball rating. When I look at the grid, okay, I take a look and I kind of trying to paint a picture of what's the race going to look like early. Is there a lot of early pressure? Right now, the 3 horse, if you look at the next top average of 1C is actually 16 points slower than this 3. Okay, so you could look at this and say this 3 might get out, even though he may have not gotten out in the front last race. Okay, I'm not going to go back and look at the PP, but he may not have been the lead, but he ran against the fastest first call out of all these pace lines that I chose for each of these horses. I've got a 98.5. Okay, and he also has a top second call. But what I'm going to do today is I'm going to play the percentages when I rank these, and I'm not going to put necessarily the horses that I think will be on the lead or who are coming off the best early, going up against the best early pace on top. Okay, I'm going to play the percentages where the majority of the races are won by horses who are slightly off the pace. So I'm going to look for the horses that are slightly off the pace and also show good sustainability throughout, such as the turn, such as the final fraction, and are able to keep their numbers up to a point where they're in the rankings over here. So I put the 6 as my top play here in race number 2, and then I use the 3 as the second. Now, as I said before, the way I rank them doesn't matter because I'm going to be looking for value. So, for example, when you look at I see 3, 6, 1, 7, 8. Okay, if this 7 horse is going off at 20-1, I'm putting something to win on that 7. I'm not saying, oh, I have him ranked in the B column or even the 8 maybe. He's going to be worth at least $3 for me to put a $3 win bet, especially because I won't be using him on top of any of my exotics. If I'm playing a try exacta, chances are my exacta is going to look like 3, 6, 7 over 1, 7, 8 or 3, 6 over 1, 3, 6, 7, 8. And even my tries. My try will probably start with a 3, 6 on top. So the last thing I want to do is bury myself and have one of these horses that I'm not using on the top of my horizontal plays come in and win at a big price. You don't feel so bad when the 7 comes in and wins at 15-1 and I didn't have him on top of my exotics, but I had a $3 win bet on him. You know, and I'm getting $45, $50 back for that. So that's the way I look at it as far as my selections go. All right, A, B, and C are pretty much how I'm going to rank these horses based on how I'm going to set them up in my exotics and my horizontals, because it's not feasible to go a 1, 3, 6, 7, 8 trifecta box. I know some people will, but you know that's kind of throwing money away in my opinion. Especially a day like today. A day like today, we're looking at a lot of shippers and a lot of layoff horses. Okay, they're either one or the other because this is the first day of Churchill running. So we're looking at one of the two things. We're looking at horses that have come in from other tracks that have been running. Okay, namely Turfway. We got some Gulfstream shippers, or horses that are just coming off 3 months layoffs and are now running for the first time. So there are other things, handicapping angles and things that you could look at on top of just these the factors that are being, you know, that are coming out on the grid. So let's take a look here at this race what I might do here is on a piece of paper write down 6-3-1-7 are the predominant plays, and maybe throw the 8 in there, and now go back to the past performances and maybe look for other angles, such as maybe the 7 horse runs very well. Maybe the 7 horse is 3 for 3 or 4 for 4 at Churchill. And now all of a sudden you give that horse a little more credence, and you might put that horse on top. Okay, so this is based simply on the quantitative data that we're getting from the past performances. Okay, this grid here does not take into account anything qualitative, such as a move made on a turn, a drop in class. But those are things that you should look at when you do your handicapping early enough where you have time now to go back and say, okay, these are my contenders based on the grid. Now let's take a look and see what kind of features stand out from these particular horses, and maybe do a 5th assessment outside of these 4 and then rank them that way. So I might go and say, okay, my contenders are 1, 3, 6, 7, 8, because they're all the ones that show up. And now out of these 5, let's take a deeper dive into the past performances, and let's not look at numbers anymore. Let's look at earnings. Let's look at how the horse is done at Churchill, how the horse is done historically in the past off of layoffs, off of shipping, first time coming to it, whatever you want to throw into your, into your toolbox, do it. Okay, let's look at race number 3. We got 2 across the board here. Okay, again, you know why these 3 are ranked the way they are. Now I look here and I see again, today, not going to rank. Again, it doesn't mean I'm not going to use on top, but I'm not going to rank on top over here the horse that has the best early. I'm going to lean toward today second call and late pace. Being that I don't know what the bias, there's no recent week, last week or last month or whatever, past month bias at Churchill for me to compare to. So I'm going to go toward slightly off the pace horses here to put on top. But 2, 5, 7, 4. If you want to take a look at the grid, you'll see why I ranked them. And in my selections here, I have the 2 as a solo A over 4, 5, 7 over the 6. Okay? And again, this is just for, you might look at it and go, wow, you're using 5 horses. I'm not going to, if you're going to play a trifecta, you're obviously going to use, multiple horses. Unless you're playing a straight cold 2-4-5 or 2-4-6 or whatever, that's fine. But if I'm gonna key this too, these are the horses I'm going to use somewhere, somehow, underneath in that try. And maybe in a super, if I single the 2 in front, the last leg might have all. And that's still going to be a small ticket with the 10-cent base wager. Okay, let's take a look at race number 4. Race number 4, we have a 3 showing up across the board. Now, in this case, I did use the 3 on top simply because of the sustainability this horse shows. Even though he did run against a fast pace last out, he may have the lead, and that's another thing. When you were handicapping and you were just getting these numbers in, and you're so locked into just looking at the times, and not being that you have the PP set to where you don't have to count lengths behind or anything, it just tells you right here the fractions. You may have been drawn away from looking at where the horse was in the race. And now this is maybe something you go back and do now. Once you have your contenders. Okay, I have 5 contenders. Out of those 5, have any of them been on the lead? Or any of those pace lines that I drew from? Where are they coming from in the lead? Well, in this case, if you take a look here, this 3 horse, wired to field at a mile 70. This is a mile race at the fairgrounds. Again, a lot of shippers, a lot of layoff horses today, and that reflects that 103 right there. So this horse will, I don't want to say will be, but is going to look for the lead, and I'm going to keep that horse on top simply because of the turn, second best in the final fraction, his sustainability. Okay, then I have the 6, the 9, and the 2. 3, 6, 9, 2. In the selections grid, however, I did not put the 3 by itself in the A column. I have 3, 6, 7, 9, 2. Okay. Race number 5. Okay, we see the rankings here. I'm going with the 8 as my top choice in my eyeball assessment. Simply because I think there's going to be a little bit of a contentious pace early between the 5 and the 7. Okay. They both show a little bit of sustainability. The 7 horse may fall off. The 5 may be able to sustain a bit. But I'm looking at it as maybe that early duel may take something out of this 5 horse. And he may not be able to, when this race is all over and done with, if I were to map this out again, we might not see blue here and blue here. I'm going to take the horse that's going to sit off the pace, who has shown well throughout from mid-race late. The 5, I'm going to keep him as my second choice here. The 6 horse, top final fraction. Okay. Top turn and final fraction. Even though he did not rank in the top 3 in the turn, this 87 rating in the final fraction was enough to put him on top right here in this, again, this portion of the race from there to there. And then the 7. I have the 7 in there as well, which I mentioned early on that he's going to be mixed in probably in the early pace. Race number 6. I like the 3 on top. Tied for top 3 in the turn. Okay, second in final fraction. On top of both TC ratings. I have the 7 in second. The 6 and the 2. You guys can pause and take a look at this yourself. 3, 7, 6, 2. And as far as the selections go, I did put the 3. Wait, what race are we on? Am I on the right race? Hold on a second. Race 6. Did I get the race? 5, 8. Yeah, okay, we're right. Sorry. Little mind blunder there. I did put the 3 on top, over to 6, 7, over to 2, 5 for my C's. Race 7, 2, 10 on top. Let's take a look at the 2 and 10. Okay, the 2 I'm getting from over here. And the 10 I'm getting from over here. We'll take a look what the 10 looks like. 10 looks like he turns it on the turn. Sustains. And he does have the best turn and final fraction average. So I'm staying with the 10 there. Followed by the 6, 2, and then the 8. Okay. Race 8 I skipped on. And then finally race 9, which is the only stakes race today. It's a 250,000 non-graded at 6 furlongs. And I'm leaning, in my eyeball assessment, I'm leaning toward the 6. Okay. To turn it on the turn. Top final fraction. Top turn rating, final fraction average. Second in the 2C. Top in the 2C2, TC2. So TC1, second. TC2, first. And then I put the 10. Second. Best on the turn. Falls off a bit final fraction wise. And then we have the potential pace setter. Let's take a look real quick. Being that he's on top here in early speed category, first call, let's take a look real quick at where he was. Was he actually on the lead? Or did he just run against a pretty contentious pace that race? And that was the 3 horse. And the 3 horse, yes, is a lead, is a must lead. Need to lead type. 3 for 3. He's never seen second place from the first call on. But he is stepping up to his first stakes company today. And things may be a little different for this horse. But he's 9-2 morning line. Obviously worth a win play if you see odds that open your eyes a little bit. But that's my assessment for today. We'll see how things go. Again, it's first day, Derby week, next weekend. So we'll get a chance to see a couple things today. How well this grid holds up. And throughout the week, we'll see what the bias is on the track. Where winners are coming from in the sprints. Where they're coming from in the routes. Where they're coming from on the grass. And where they're coming from on the dirt. Okay, so hopefully you guys got something out of this video. If you are interested in the pace progression tutorial, I do have a link in the description below for a download. If you own the thorough capping tutorial, I did this before. I've had a lot of people respond to me who were thorough capping, owners of thorough capping, and I will give you the pace progression for $24 if you're interested in it. If you're first timer, you can get the pace progression, this whole model and tutorial with videos explaining where you get your information from for $40. So if you're interested and you want to go down into the descriptions, there's also a fresh invite link for our Discord, which has been pretty hopping lately. We have a lot of people that contribute their grids in there. We have some people who have taken the grid, the pace progression grid, and added their own flavor to it, which I love. And I don't want to name drop anybody because I don't know how many people want their names dropped in the videos. But at the same time, if you go over to the Discord, you'll get a chance to see what's going on. And even if you want to join in, you can join in. All right, I'll talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in.